Hello, it's Mike from Performance Revolution here. Now, you're probably wondering about the title of this video. So death by 1,000 cuts was first used as a term to describe the Chinese torture form that involved a slow process of cutting a person with lots of small cuts over time until blood loss built up and they had a slow and lingering death. And in the same way, you could also refer to the psychological form of this expression, which is the way a major negative change happens slowly and in many small and unnoticed increments over time. So how does this concept relate to you and why you might be out of shape? Well, as a coach, when someone first comes to me for help in getting in shape, one of the first things I ask them is how they got out of shape. And I usually always get the same type of response. And that is that people often think it's something big or one major thing that makes them gain weight or cause them to be out of shape. For instance, they say they stopped walking to work, or I'm not going to the gym on a Tuesday night anymore, or I think it's my breakfast so bad, or something else they point to as a cause of their demise. Now, although some of those things have some validity in isolation, they don't make someone gain 10 kilos or an extra 20 pounds overnight and get overweight super quick. And maybe these events were when a person first notices their decline, or these events instigated their negative changes, more on that later, but it can't reasonably or scientifically be blamed on these things alone for gaining so much weight. And instead of one major thing causing a person to get out of shape, it's more the accumulation of 1,000 little things that add up over time, tend to pack the weight on and tip the scale. For instance, it's little things like saying to themselves that something is just a treat, or this is just a one-off snack, and then they start eating it regularly. Or for instance, you might grab a coffee and then decide to get a muffin with it, which then becomes an everyday thing. Or you get offered fries with a meal and you take it, and you go for the upsize of the regular drink to the jumbo, and that's your new standard size for feeling full. Or you start skipping one gym session and watch Netflix instead, and then all of a sudden you're in a routine of binging on Netflix of a weeknight, and also usually a bowl of ice cream or something else to go with it. You go out for a drink with your friends, one becomes quickly four, and you can see where this goes. And it usually starts with a little slip up or easing of constraints that becomes a pattern, and it spreads collaterally to other areas of life. And hence it's not the thing like skipping the walking to work or eating the wrong thing for breakfast, but all these little things combined that add up to big amounts over time. And hence a death by 1,000 cuts in regards to your health and your fitness aspirations. And one day you wake up and realize that you're fat and you're out of shape. So why do we do this? Why do we slowly kill ourselves and gradually get worse over time? Well, there are two factors, and I think they go hand in hand. And the first is that you get decision fatigue. You see, because eating right and keeping in shape involves making a lot of choices. And the easier the choices are to make, the more likely you'll be in shape. For instance, if you don't keep chocolate in the cupboard or the fridge, the likelihood of you eating chocolate late at night is quite low. You'll have to go out and buy it or source it from somewhere else. However, if it's staring you in the face every time you open the fridge, it's likely going to find its way into your mouth at some stage. So you're faced with the decision every time you open the fridge door of whether you should eat the chocolate or not, and there's only so much that you can bear. And this is the reason why like a supermarket or a store will sell you bigger quantities at a discount, because they know you'll eat more in the same space of time between your regular trips to the store. And this works the same way too when you don't have anything in the fridge or pre-prepared when you're hungry. You're likely to order fast food or something quick and easy, and you don't want to labor over the decisions of how you're going to prepare the food or a good and nutritious meal after a long day. So it's a lot easier to therefore click on a button and order Uber Eats and make life easier, at least in the short term. And the same thing goes for your lunches as well. You might not prepare anything or have anything made in advance. So each lunchtime or dinner time, you waste time worrying about what to eat each time, and then you wind up not having the headspace to think about it, and you opt for something easy like fast food or a meal out. And you repeat this mistake over and over again, and you never stop thinking about solving this problem that keeps popping up. And it's these little decisions that are everywhere that all add up massively over the course of days, weeks, and months, and you eventually start packing on a heap of weight. And the problem with these decisions is not that just they are bad, but they keep wearing on you and your willpower, and you start making them more easily. And the first way to get around this death spiral is to start making decisions that have longer time horizons and they don't keep popping up all the time. For instance, doing things like preparing your lunches in advance in big batches, or other meals well in advance, but also doing like one big grocery shop per week instead of 3 or 4 skirmishes at your supermarket will not only force you to eat what you have, but it will also give you back most of your time and attention. And this is one of the main differences between people who keep in shape longer term versus those who don't. It's that the people in shape usually make one decision that solves a problem for a long time, rather than trying to constantly tap into their mental bandwidth and make decisions every time they're hungry. And decision fatigue will wear on you and get the better of you over time. And I can guarantee that if you take this approach, you'll start to make more and more unhealthy decisions a lot more easily. Which brings us to the second factor, which is setting standards and rules for yourself. Now, I can already hear a lot of you saying that you don't want to be restricted by rules around eating healthy all the time. And this is because most of us believe that rules and freedoms are mutually exclusive and can't coexist. But in reality, rules and freedoms are actually dependent on each other. In fact, rules and boundaries don't give you less freedom, they actually give you more freedom. Let me give you some examples to explain this better. So when you drive your car around, there are road rules and laws made to protect you and others around you. If you break the law, you'll likely be fined or eventually wind up having an accident at some stage. And the rules exist so you have the freedom to drive regularly and safely, and so does everyone else. You also have regulations and rules at your workplace designed to make you more productive. And if you get lazy at work and you don't follow procedures and instructions, you likely won't get the work done in a proficient manner, and also your boss can fire you. And your body also has these natural parameters too. For instance, if you drink too much too frequently, you'll get hungover and fatter as a result. And as you can see from these examples, when we don't have rules and standards, bad things tend to happen and we sink into chaos. And we often think that being disciplined makes us unhappy or enslaves us, but in actual fact, it liberates us from our worst selves most of the time. So, knowing that with decision fatigue working against us, there usually comes easier and less worthwhile choices, and that with no rules or standards in place for ourselves, we also go off the rails and get out of shape pretty badly. What can you do about it? Well, a common solution is to frame the solution in the same way we first framed the initial problem. And that is getting back to that it must be one thing that got us out of shape, and that it can be one thing that can solve it for us. And this is how the fitness and health industry usually markets to you and sells you on that one certain diet or that one supplement or that one weight loss challenge that is the answer to your problem. And being an easy and reasonably uncomplicated decision, you usually fall for it and buy it. Decision fatigue. And there are no real ongoing standards exemplified after you consume these products. And this is particularly the case with the last thing I mentioned, which is the fitness or weight loss challenge or program. And people see these as a way to get motivated and get out of a rut by following a plan, which is fine, and there's nothing wrong with these per se. However, it's how a lot of people frame them, and they only think in terms of getting in shape, but they don't think in terms of how they're going to stay in shape or sustain the results thereafter. And I cover this in my finite fitness video, which you can check out later on. It's a link in the description to this video. But for many people who yo-yo up and down with their weight and are constantly in a flux of their health, it's because they're not seeing these sorts of challenges for what they are. And the goal of a challenge or a program is not to complete it. The goal is to learn from it and to set yourself better standards moving forwards. And a lot of people do weight loss challenges, but they never really educate themselves on what's really going on or what got them results. But worse yet, they don't set standards for themselves thereafter and that they have to live by, and are usually just thinking as far as the first cheat meal that they're going to have when it's all over. And doing challenges or programs and not setting standards is really just futile. To give you an example to drive this home, let's look at your education standards. Now, a lot of you watching this probably went to university, got a degree, or you did an apprenticeship, or did something else to qualify you for a trade. Now, during this time, you did practical assignments and challenges to become, say, a doctor or a lawyer or a carpenter or whatever else. So you could then go out and start practicing as a professional in the real world because you'd met certain standards. And the goal was not to tick off that you passed a test or got a professional qualification, but rather to set a minimum standard for which you were to keep practicing at. And the qualification was really more the beginning of the journey, not so much the end. And you also have requirements and rules of your professional practice to adhere to ensure the best level of service for those people you work for. And these rules grant you freedoms to practice as a professional, and they also protect you from doing things that you shouldn't. Now, a lot of you, when it comes to your nutrition, think you should have ultimate freedom and think you'll be happier because you can make any number of choices at any time, or that you reached a goal and you think you can now do whatever you want. But in reality, you have no freedom because you don't have any boundaries or constraints, which causes you to overeat and then make the wrong decisions around food all the time, and that affects your health and your body composition, and ultimately it's a recipe for unhappiness. And your weight and your body, like anything else in life, will be chaotic if you don't make more grounded longer-term decisions and rules to live by, and you'll ultimately wind up frustrated. So stop giving yourself a death by 1,000 cuts, set yourself some standards and parameters to work in, and you'll ultimately make the right decisions with less effort, and you'll be happier for it longer term. I hope that resonated with you and got you thinking on why you might be struggling and out of shape, and better yet, what you can do to not just get in shape, but also to stay in shape longer term. So please like, share and subscribe and do all that good stuff if you found this useful, and I look forward to seeing you next time.